Okay, this is GPS AutoTracker, our offering for the hours of service application.
My name is Jim Williams, and I'll be your presenter. We have David Lurie, and we also have Barry Gilbo with us this morning. The GPS AutoTracker Hours of Service application is an Android application for tablets and phones that makes you compliant with the December mandate that all drivers have electronic logs, and that those electronic logs be linked to the engine bus of the pickup truck or over-the-road vehicle that's being monitored so that all the state transitions are automatic. We'll go through each screenshot of the application and how it works, and then show you some live demos with an actual user on a tablet. To begin with, the simple logins are username and password, usually your email. You can have multiple home terminals and link your drivers in a way that makes it convenient to organize, that makes sense for your company. And the password will be a text. These details can be changed at any time by a system administrator and can be performed on the tablet, and there's a back-end server application for the fleet manager as well. Enter your username, select Next for an option from the keyboard so that you can type. Then select Done from the keyboard after you've entered the password. After entering your username and password, select the login option to continue, and if you're logging into a device that is mounted in a vehicle, it is not recommended to select the Save Password option because there may be slip seat driving, and basically the software is designed so that any driver can walk up to any tablet, log on, hook that device to the engine bus, and usually that's accomplished with a Bluetooth low energy connection for a dongle that's placed over the Deutsch connector and installed by the user. Then you could also synchronize with your Android phone with a permanently mounted Android tablet in the vehicle. So those are mounting options that are available. You can do inspections using your Android phone on the walk around because it's smaller and lighter, and then synchronize to the larger ruggedized tablet mounted in the vehicle. To begin, you'll have to create a driver, and this can be done either on the tablet or in the back-end system. But you have to put in the carrier information, the carrier DOT number, the main office address, the phone number, and all of the hours that are recorded for a driver are based on the home terminal. So even if they're driving in Los Angeles, if the home company is in Cherryville, North Carolina, then that will be the time that's kept on all the logs, even if it's in a different time zone for where the driver normally operates. At this point, the tablet will synchronize all of the previous logs that the driver has entered, and you need to be able to show the past 7 days for a roadside inspection. So to initiate a new driver, you need to add in all of the logs from the previous 7 days that may have been kept by paper, but eventually it's automatically updated. Following a successful login, the GPS AutoTracker HOS main menu will be displayed and looks like this. Now the color codes are important here because when you're off duty, everything is grayed out. When you're on duty and you have appropriate time, they will change colors to green, so you always know where you're at. Going to the settings menu, you can change carrier information there. Home terminal information can be populated and drivers associated with a home terminal in the server software on the back end for fleet managers. Before setting your initial status, you should always check that you have availability, and that can be done in several ways by checking view logs, the shift, and the cycle button. By looking at the shift button, you see that in the daily drive, we have nearly 8 hours left until we are required to take a rest break. Then our daily duty time left is 7 hours and 58 minutes. So it depends on the rules that you're operating under, and you can select those, but it can be Texas intrastate. Those don't require a break, or it could be federal regulations, and those require a break after 8 hours, but you can operate driving for 11 hours and be on duty for 14. So these are all switch selectable. We have Canadian rules, California rules, Florida rules, Texas intrastate, and some others. Checking your cycle with the cycle button is easy. and that'll give you your weekly duty cycle left. And again, you will have chosen whether it's 7 days, 80 hours, or 6 days, 60 hours, and that's dependent on the company's operating parameters. However, drivers sometimes have more than one job, so the federal law requires that the log follow the driver and that he use that same system even if he's driving for another company. So you as a driver need to keep your personal log, and you're responsible for your own violations, particularly if you have multiple companies that you work for. Checking your driver options, you can find out when you gain time, and it'll display the time and date at which you'll have more hours available. And this is the screen that you'll see to select your status. And currently it's at off duty, but you can change it to on duty not driving or driving. And it's a drop-down menu, so you know what your choices are. Now, a couple things you see on this screen. The background color has changed to amber. This is warning you that you have to take a break sometime within the next hour, as we can see. And then when you create an event, it'll give you the exact time. The odometer reading will be read from the vehicle bus and the lat long from the GPS so that it populates the town that you're located in and the location. And you can also choose if it's personal conveyance or in-yard movement or off-road movement for those areas that don't require that you pay fuel tax during fuel consumed in those places. If the device is out of GPS coverage, the location field will be blank. You can manually input your current location. If the device is within GPS coverage, the location field will be automatically populated using a reverse geocode, and this is just a function of the Android operating system. The time remaining will be calculated, and a countdown will commence from the 8 hours, the time the remaining panel is color-coded, with the following formats. It's green between 8 hours and 3 hours. Within 3 hours, it'll start to notify you that you need to take a break, and then it'll turn red when you have less than 1 hour remaining before a mandatory break must be taken. And there's a countdown timer on the break as well. It may be necessary that you remain with the vehicle when transporting explosives, for instance. You have to take your break. The vehicle has to be in idle, not moving, but you have to remain seated in the vehicle during the break time. We call it a snack bar at the bottom, but it'll tell you that you should perform a pre-trip inspection or a post-trip inspection if you're logging out if the shift is complete. And the inspections and DVIR are an important part of this offering, as those are required by federal law for post-trip inspections and always a good idea for a pre-trip inspection. So to do a vehicle inspection, you simply select that button from the home screen, and you'll see some appropriate trucks that you can select, and these can be customized for your company with your vehicles. And you can say whether it's a pre-trip or a post-trip inspection, whether it's performed by a driver, mechanic, or another, whether it's an ad hoc inspection just for a truck coming out of maintenance. You can switch vehicles, and trailers and trucks can be linked or unlinked as appropriate, and then select the appropriate inspection form. And here's what you'll see. There's multiple languages supported, and this is an example for a cement mixer, so you have information that you need to inspect from the mixer unit, from the power unit, and then the completion. And then if there are problems, if you hit the button one time, you'll get the thumbs up green indication, as seen here. And if you hit it twice, if you have a failure, that's a thumbs down red button, and then you can choose the severity level of the problem. And this can go directly to the maintenance department to be corrected. And if it's a situation where that particular thing is not applicable to this vehicle, you can hit it a third time and get not applicable. You can use the photo icon that appears to take a picture of a potential problem, and then this text button allows you to use an Android feature that will convert your speech to text and type it in for you. Once you select that text icon, which looks like this is the screen you will see. You hit the microphone button, You can speak into the device. It will record and type in the text here, and then you can add a photograph that you take. For instance, you detect oil in the manifold. You can take a photograph of that. A picture's worth 1,000 words. Send it right back to the maintenance manager and correct that problem. You continue to work through all the inspection categories until you have marked off everything as pass, failed, or not applicable, and then select the Finish option. You'll note here that there are 27 items to inspect on the mixer, 36 on the power unit. You're not allowed to forget one. It'll send you back. When you set up your driver preferences, you'll have added a signature bar so that you can certify both your logs and your inspections. So that'll be a permanent part of the tablet once you sign in with your user ID. You select that the condition of the vehicle is satisfactory, have your signature, and then if all elements of the inspection have been completed, you'll be able to push the Finish Inspection button. And once you create your signature, it'll stay with it, and that's going to be a part of the permanent record that you'll be showing to compliance officers, and it'll go out in emailed PDFs as well. Select the Finish Inspection button, as we see right here. And then you say, I certify that this inspection is correct and true, hit OK, and it becomes available to email a PDF, and you can send it to any number of people, including yourself, to keep these records in the case of an owner-operator. And that way you have it available for FMCSA audits in the future, and you need to retain these records for 6 months at a time. Enter the required email address if it's not already populated. This is just a function from the normal Gmail system in the Android operating system of the tablet, so everybody must have a Gmail address. And it can be configured on the website portal side, but you may manually enter an email address too, which could be the inspection officer in his cruiser. And basically this is what the report will look like when you're done. Everything is neatly typed. All of your odometer readings are reported, every result of every inspection, any remarks that were voice to text created, any photographs that you uploaded, like this one. And the example shown here is an emailed inspection report complete with a photograph of damage to a driver's door. Again, selecting the driver options, you have this screen appear. So to conform to FMCSA regulations, the driver's option menu provides the driver with a means to enter all required information if not available automatically, and a log review can be shown to the compliance officer. The following information must be included on the driver log in addition to the grid, and the date is captured automatically. The total miles driving should be captured automatically by the engine monitoring device. The tractor or trailer number, the name of the carrier, your driver's signature and certification. And all of this is available when you initially set up to use the device for the first time. So you need to be sure to do that, particularly if you're picking up a rental vehicle or if you're just a short-term driver. So that could result in a form and manner violation if not done properly. The software also allows you to record a note at any point that you want, that you're crossing a state line or that you're making a delivery at a job site, and any other information that you'd like to convey in the log. The 24-hour period starting time is recorded automatically on the log. The recent laws have changed so that no longer is midnight the required starting time. You can choose a start time for your carrier based on your business operation. The remarks are any kind of descriptive comment that provides additional context and helps you remember what was happening during that time. And then in some cases, the system will automatically record a remark to document some action taken by the driver, an application of the HOS rules, or some problem with the recording device, An example might be the 34-hour reset if you're working on federal rules, a 24-hour reset if you're working with Texas intrastate. And then beginning that mark shows that you gain time from that point on, that you have full time for the solution that you've chosen. If the device is portable and the driver is going to switch to a different truck, you can change the truck ID and do another inspection. So that can be handled anytime during the day. And this will ensure that all vehicle IDs used during the login period will be displayed on the driver's log. And those are drop-down menus of the trucks that are available for each driver, and that can be created on the back end. If the vehicle or the trailer ID is incorrect or not displayed, you can enter a manual correct ID, and this will then be displayed on your log. Anything added through the portal cannot be edited or deleted. You just have the opportunity to choose those things or not, and they're grayed out on the portal if they're not available. By pressing the Add Remark button, you can add a remark anywhere on the log. You can enter a location manually, enter a remark, and if you're stopped at a compliance stop at a state line or a way station and a log review is required, there is a button called Log Review that allows you to view your previous 7 days logs or to email your previous 7 days logs to anyone that you choose. This screen pops up next. You can review the logs for the previous 7 days, including today. You will need to certify today's log before it can be emailed. But you can uncertify a log and continue driving afterwards as well. And then emailing logs, if they request a paper copy, that can be done immediately if you have network connectivity or in a Wi-Fi hotspot, or if your phone or tablet has internet access, or you have up to 13 days to do that. But this is the button that allows you to do that. You can select shipping docs to enter your shipment ID, take photographs of things, add in a bill of lading, define the commodity that you're hauling. Before applying any exception rule, you must follow all processes currently in place with your transportation office. However, all of the federally applicable exceptions are available for choice. An exception is an exceptional circumstance in which a driver is permitted per FMCSA HOS regulations to extend their maximum driving time due to a weather emergency or other problem. There are some cases where when you're in construction or oil and gas and you're using the fifth line on the logs, they call it, where waiting time at well site is considered off-duty rest time. You have the 16-hour exception available in the case of drivers that are property carrying vehicles who return to their work reporting location and released from duty at the end of each workday. Drivers may extend the 14 consecutive hour duty window to 16 consecutive hours once every 7 consecutive days. These regulations are complex, but the software defines exactly the cases where you may use them, and you can always be sure you'll be in legal compliance, or will be no more gray areas or concerns, because all these test cases are defined by the FMCSA, and the software has to be certified to meet all those test cases. Adverse driving means snow, sleet, fog, or any other adverse weather condition, flooding, etc., a highway covered with snow or ice, or a rock slide, unusual road or traffic conditions, none of which were apparent before you left. So if you had no advanced knowledge of an emergency situation about to happen. In the case of an emergency, a driver may complete his or her run without being in violation of provisions of the regulation if such a run reasonably could have been completed absent the emergency. Otherwise, you have to choose a safe haven as close as possible, and it might not be your final destination. The software allows you to choose the exceptions, and then it also gives the code that's applicable too. So 2-hour driving extension for adverse driving conditions is listed here, 395.1 paragraph B subsection 1. And then in a true emergency, like a Hurricane Sandy, there's emergency relief from all driving regulations, and you can choose that. However, your inspection officer does have a judgment to make whether these were realistic exceptions or not. Some are very common, where a 30-minute break exemption for short-haul drivers. The FMCSA is not concerned with delivery fleets. You have the 100 air mile exemption if you don't cross state lines, and for those drivers that go home every night, they're not as worried about fatigue. So once all the prerequisites have been made, you can select that rule and hit OK to continue. We support up to 6 drivers, so driver, co-driver, 2 sets of those, plus loader unloaders, often necessary in oil and gas type operations. And they just log in using their own username and password, and then the tablet starts reporting their driver's logs and shows them. So you switch the co-driver, and it could be the same or a different driver depending on what you're doing. You can add a document if the cargo has changed, or if the bill of lading, or if you purchase fuel and you want to take a photograph of your fuel receipt for later record verification. This is an example of adding a document. You select to edit the document details or to delete, add a document, and you can email a document, and you must select at least one, but there can be multiple. Fill in and add any reference numbers and notes that you wish. Select the document type, bill of lading, fuel receipt, accident photo, citation, scale ticket, etc. Select OK to save the document, and then it'll be available during the 6-month review period. You can view your log for any previous day, up to 7, and any current operation. And this is what the log screen will look like. Now you'll have automatically populated fields like odometer and mileage when it's hooked up to an appropriate ELD device. Your carrier information, any certified inspections that were done will be listed here. And then the grid itself will be displayed. Here's an example of a 4-column grid for a federal compliance. You can scroll the screen up or down to review the information, tap on the colored bar to collapse the log grid. It does all the calculations right here, so they're always accurate and easy for a compliance officer to validate. The other thing that's easy to validate is that if there is a violation, that will be displayed as well. Now in this case, it looks to me as if someone forgot to log off at the end of their shift because they got a 30-minute violation for not taking a break. They drove more than 11 hours, and they also extended their duty day more than 14 hours. Very clearly, someone forgot to log off, and it continued with them, on duty driving instead of logging off properly. So you are prompted after an hour to log off. It is possible to make a mistake, but you can edit it on the tablet or you can edit it on the server. The new federal anti-discrimination statutes require that the driver be the one doing the edit and approving any edit from the portal solution, and then do the edit on the tablet itself. So in this case, you would go on, select the time and date that you actually went off duty, the violations would disappear. You would have to uncertify that day's log, and then it would recalculate all of any other violations that came further along during your duty cycle and display them properly. But at least if you have a violation and you have made a mistake, it's clearly shown and you can easily correct it. Now when you do a modification to a certified log, there's a notation that you modified it and you need to put a reason. And a simple reason like incorrect information offered is perfectly sufficient. Now to take that day as an unreasonable example, you can see exactly where the violations occurred, and they're shown in red on the driver's log. So at this point he had no time remaining as he continued to drive. Every state transition has a number, and all of those are defined with lat long and transitions by the software. All the totals for the hours are displayed on the right. So you can tap on that log grid right there and then choose the date and time that you really did go off duty. You can scroll through this date or any previous date for the previous 8 days right here, and then scrolling upward to view all of the events that were defined by the numbers in this log. Violations will be displayed with the events, and then a summary of violations will be displayed on the portal. And if by chance there was a real violation, then a form has to be filled out between the driver and the fleet manager to discuss how they'll avoid having that problem recur. And that'll become a permanent part of the record for audit later too. Looking at your shift or cycle, you can say the shift remaining, your daily drive until your rest time, daily duty left. Select the cycle option to view the remaining cycle time during the week. When you do start your break, it gives you a break countdown that gives it in minutes and seconds so that you don't make a mistake. Are you sure you want to start your break? So it doesn't allow you to just randomly hit a button wrong. You confirm that you do want to start your break, and then the countdown clock will display here, 29 minutes, 54 seconds remaining. The federal law is very clear on this point. It has to be 30 minutes, 0 seconds. It can't be 29 minutes. That will result in a violation. Once the break is ended, the time remaining will be recalculated. You can view your logs again, change your status, select that button to certify your logs. This button will allow you to refresh. This is the logout button. This will allow you to go back to the main screen, select settings, etc. So some of these are standard Android icons that might not be familiar to a driver. The software is designed to be walk-up usable, but there are a few Android features that you need familiarity with that style of tablet. This is an example of the marking on the log of the 34-hour reset, so it'll be in blue. It's got a 34 there. To select going off-duty, it'll ask you to certify the log to confirm that you wish to go off-duty. I hereby certify that my data entries and my record of duty status for this 24-hour period are true and correct, and you'll affix your signature. And this is a legal document for the FMCSA. And then once you've successfully certified the log, then it's available for later review. And you can select Recap to display the hours worked for the current or previous 6 or 7 days. And that Recap button will give you this table, the date and the hours worked each day. And it could be 6 or 7 previous days depending on the cycle you've chosen. Here's the Logout button. Once you're done for the day, log out and turn off the tablet. We've shown you what happens if you forget, so it's easy to fix. Checking this box enables all logged-on drivers to log out simultaneously in the case of slip seat or partner driving. And you can confirm that. And then the login screen is displayed once again, and the tablet's ready for use by another driver. There is a web portal on the back end for the fleet manager, and here are some screenshots from that. But basically, you can display all the drivers by name at a particular terminal, get their current status, the last contact, the last position, all of their drive time, shift time, and cycle time left when they gain time, their projected driving time, the distance that they've driven, any violations. So it displays all the drivers' availability, and a fleet manager can select who to send on a mission depending on availability and time. And then any driver can be selected for any previous date for the last 6 months, his entire driver log displayed on the back-end server, and this is just a web portal login. There's no installed software required. And every shift transition is noted by number here. Odometers, violations, any remarks are going to be displayed here. And that's any day for the last 6 months for any number of drivers. So you can always have the driver record available for audit at the click of a button. And then there's a summary sheet available of anybody that's had violations, and you can choose the time period that, it could be a multiple month period or a single month or a single week. That acknowledgement PDF, if there were a real violation, you would have to have the driver and the fleet manager sign that document, and it would become a part of the permanent record as well. And then you can display hours and miles report and edit logs report of each driver, and you can also generate reports in a PDF format or an Excel for later export and calculating things like if to fuel tax. There's also a history of all the inspections of a vehicle, and then the driver can see the last 30 inspections of a vehicle. If a new defect has been found, he'll want to know if that's been corrected or not, and he'll be able to weigh in on whether he considers the fix acceptable or reject a vehicle. So all of that's there, and then if there is an open violation that's not been addressed during the inspection period, he'll be called to his attention right there on the screen. The inspection details will generate report of repairs. The vehicle can be taken in or out of service. You can save and cancel that. The location, the reported address, and the driver's name are also provided. And at this point, we move on to a live display of the software. And this is my particular driver log for today. So I'm currently in an on-duty status, not driving. And at this point, I want to do a DVIR inspection, so I hit the DVIR button. And I can choose multiple types of trucks. And let's say I choose this tractor. There's no previous inspection of that device. I can choose a trailer or add that to it, or in this case, just the tractor. It's a pre-trip inspection by me, the driver, and I want to start my inspection by hitting the Inspect button. Now, there are 46 items that we've highlighted here. Your fleet manager can do a customized addition to this, but these are basic units that are suggested by the FMCSA. And thumbs down, and it'll allow me to choose the severity of a problem here. Hitting the microphone, I hear air hissing. And that becomes a part of the report. Now, it's difficult to take a picture of that, but hitting the camera icon would allow you to add a picture. And as I move through the inspection, I can simply scroll down the list, and each time I add a new inspection, you see that number change. Here it goes from 10 to 11. And I continue down the list, and it won't. Well, let me skip one just so you can see what would happen if I did forget to inspect something. I'm going to say that that one's not applicable. And then other. Okay, but now, when I think I'm done, I can't choose finish until the defects are corrected, and I can't certify it because I'm missing an item. So I go back to the inspection, and I just go through the list until I find what I've forgotten to inspect. Okay, now I can hit finish again. And this time, I can finish the DVIR, certify that that inspection is true and correct. It'll generate a PDF. And I go to my log, and it says that I went on duty about 55 minutes ago. I've completed an inspection report. So now if I want to change my duty status, I can change it to driving. And it'll give me the chance to put my current location, add a note, determine whether it's personal conveyance, off-road, yard moves, have the mileage, choose a time. And then instantly, that log is updated. So it's very easy to make sure that all the transitions are noted. And then this is an example of scrolling down to the previous day, where I did have a violation for not taking a break. I did have a certified inspection, and I can view it. Or I can email it. And now I've emailed it back to headquarters. And similarly, I can look at any previous day. Now you'll notice when you look at this log that I'm using the 5th line, so waiting at well site is one of my options. That's only available when you're doing 8 days, 70 hours, and you have the oil field exceptions defined. And it's added an extra line on the log so that you can record that time appropriately. So it's as simple as that to use. Going to options, the roadside inspection button is the one place you need to go to show a compliance officer your existing logs. You can start the review, and it will give the history of the miles driven today, the mileage, the vehicle that you're driving, the manifest number of the commodity shipper, the name of your carrier, your address, your certified logs for each day. And I can go back through the entire list. And then furthermore, my driver log for that day and any transitions are available too. So you can show the compliance officer day by day exactly what your driver log looked like for that day. And then here's an example of all the transitions that would have been automatically generated by changing in the engine bus. I can synchronize my data at any time. So any updates will also be displayed on the back-end portal system as well. And then to email those logs for the previous 7 days, it'll have a list of every driver log. I'm just emailing it to myself. All of those are available by email. And that's the end of our demonstration. Do we have any questions?
That was great.
Awesome.